everybody. This is Elijah Ignatieff of the Very Secret Plan, and I have a very special guest, Keisha Walker, today. And I have been following Keisha on Facebook. I'm not quite sure how long, but I think it's at least years. And I have a number of people that I find are posting the truth in a way very different from everybody else. And Keisha is one of these people. And one of the terms that she has brought to my attention is statism. And this is a term that I had not been familiar with, and I'm sure a lot of people are not familiar with it. But Keisha has a very strong opinion about the state of our world and what is happening. And with that said, I'm going to go into Keisha and ask you, what is your general assessment of what is happening right now with the pandemic that is happening on the planet?
Well, obviously there is something happening. I can't really draw a conclusion because I don't know enough about it. I do know that I can't trust whatever the government says, and that is just based on historical data. I can only look at what is going on and draw my own conclusions. I can listen to actual doctors and nurses that are treating these patients, and they tell a different story than what the government is telling us. They're also suggesting different treatments than the government is suggesting. So the only thing I can do is really just try to take care of my body, and hopefully what I've been told growing up, if I take care of my body will take care of me. I'm really just trusting in that.
But let's get more into this. You can't trust the government. What to you is statism?
To me, statism is the widely accepted religion or cult that government is way more than just a parent figure, but a godlike figure that is all powerful. It deserves our complete trust, our faith, and that nothing could be further from the truth. It is a predatory system. It is responsible for more deaths than anything we could possibly imagine. You can count up all the murders in all the world, and they will never amount to as many people that the government has killed. And this doesn't even include war. You can look at every problem in the world, and it will always lead back to a government. They do not solve problems, they create them. And we allow this to happen because we put so much faith in it. It is a dangerous, deadly religion. And until we start seeing it for what it is, this will continue. We can't keep putting more faith and more power in the state's hands and think anything is going to change for the better. It's just not going to happen.
So what happens when you bring this up with people? Because I mean, what I find is you're bringing this up in a manner that is constant, is very intelligent, but it seems to be crossing the boundary of believability in terms of a lot of people out there. So how do you find people perspective?
It appears to come off as a heretic. And I've lost a lot of friends, and family members have basically disowned me when I speak out against their God. I try to come up with different ways of bringing it to the forefront. Anytime there's a crisis, I've tried to use this pandemic as a way to reach people, and going back in history, showing how the government handled the swine flu and how they will take any crisis and try to broaden their power over the people, and to just bring down an iron fist. And they're not trying to help. They're going to use it to bring more surveillance. Already they're trying to lock us down. Well, they tried to, and they're facing so much resistance, which is a good thing because a lot of people still value freedom, not just in this country, but all over the world. and they have the power of the media to shape opinions of the people, and they have people thinking that this is all about just getting a haircut, but it really isn't. People are protesting all over the world, but you look at the media and they'll just show people waving the flag and holding guns, and that's just deceptive. There are people all over the world that are protesting this shutdown, and they're gathering in the streets, and you don't see a rise in deaths because people are gathering in the streets, thousands of people. If it was as dangerous as they say it was, you should see many, many more people dying from this virus. But they're inflating the numbers, and you're not even allowed to say that. They blatantly say to you, well, you don't have to die from it for us to put it on your birth certificate. You just have to die with it. But then there's evidence that suggests that there are no tests that are even reliable. You can't even show me one test that is a reliable COVID-19 test. Now, you can test for coronavirus, but there are so many coronaviruses out there, and they will tell you, no, we can't specifically pinpoint COVID-19, but they're going to label you as a COVID-19 death if you die with COVID, but they can't even tell you if you had it. And they're mostly going by symptoms. You just cannot trust it. And you can look at how the swine flu was handled. They did a whole 60 minutes show on the swine flu, how they put out immunizations that actually caused more damage than it actually helped people. They paid out millions of dollars for victims that were harmed by the shot. But people forget those things so easily, or if you bring them up, they just dismiss you. And I'd say it's really just a handful of people, but it's so frustrating because they get so loud and insulting. And they can't even make a case, they automatically start calling you an idiot. And instead of trying to argue the case, have a discussion, they just automatically go into defense mode, like they have something to gain by not even hearing you out. So I don't even know how to reach those types of people. It's like the indoctrination is so, it's unpenetrationable. I mean, I don't even know how to describe it. It's almost like, it's like something I've never seen before. I've never encountered this where you can't even talk to people.
Well, here in Canada, I met a couple of people, and they said that a psychotherapist and a naturopath and their association said they were not allowed to speak. They're not allowed. They will lose their license if they even speak about it in any manner. I'm wondering about, I know 9/11 to me is a big pivotal moment in your nation's history. And it's another sort of smoking gun in regards to, what has occurred, and the narrative that's put forward that the buildings go down in fire and gravity in 6 seconds. Even the third building wasn't even touched by a plane. I'm wondering, how you see the connection between 9/11 and this, and also looking, a little bit beyond the government of like the deep state or evil cabals or the Illuminati or secret societies, or there seems to be some other force that has controlled the government in such a manner that they get away with these things. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, looking back, I do see that there have been cabals. There's the medical industrial complex. There is the banking industry, the military industrial complex. It appears to me that these are the three top dogs. They cannot be touched. They do not like competition. and you can't really get around them. They, to me, seem to own all governments. You can't practice medicine unless you go through, unless you have a Johns Hopkins based medical history. All, the military equipment, everything comes through this industrial complex. Boeing, all of these companies that build these equipments, they funnel through the same, they're always the same people, not people, but companies. I can't put my finger on a single person. You can trace back to families, at the risk of sounding like, anti-Semitic just because they have certain last names. If they had any other last names, you wouldn't be an anti-Semite just for mentioning that these families. But it's true. I mean, there are the Rockefellers. They always come back to these same groups of people. So I think it's safe to assume that, even though what I would say 10 years ago, I would say it was these same people, but now it's almost like a new generation of people. It's like these new groups of people are taking over. You've got Zuckerberg and Gates. Bill Gates has gained a lot of power. His money is almost everything now. Food, medicine. Pretty soon, I'm pretty sure you'll see his name is on weaponry too. It's frightening how much power he is gaining over our world today. And I don't think anybody's really paying attention.
Well, do you see, like in my feed right now, I'm probably like every second post seems to be something about Bill Gates, either what he's trying to do or the people that are just starting to despise him because everyone's seeing that his power has gone out of control. It's like Mr. Burns, in The Simpsons.
Yeah, he's out of control, man. I mean, what is this guy? Why? I don't understand why the need for so much power, and then with the guise of being a savior, And I know there are a lot of people saw this coming a long time ago. He puts money in trying to make it seem like, oh, I'm investing in saving the world and I just want to help out. But then you look at his return in investment, he just got $8 billion from all of these governments pledging our taxpayer money to help him find a cure. Who is he? I mean, what about all of the other nonprofit organizations that could be looking for a cure? We have Africa now that claims that they've already found one, a really cheap cure, and they've cut off the World Health Organization altogether. And they have reported no deaths. So I don't know. I just think it's very controlled, and because they have control of the media, the people are fed information, and they have the illusion of knowledge when it's misinformation, and that's so much worse than being uninformed.
So it seems to me like there's this great divide between the people that are sort of agreeing with the government narrative and those that aren't. And there's a battle online, and both sides are looking at each other as being kind of insane. And there's this huge polarity between people, all, who might in ordinary life like each other and be friends. But as soon as they start discussing this online, if you question the vaccination, or you talk about a chip being implemented, or you bring up any sort of what they call conspiracy theories, right away people will dismiss you. Or and I know someone like yourself and myself, let's say, who've been doing this for years, there's nothing new here. We're just seeing another example of what they do. But as you said, they have a very short memory. And I'm just wondering, in terms of again, the mindset of the people, perhaps in, in your nation, what do you think is going to happen as a result of, if they continue with making things worse and worse? I mean, 40 million people out of work. I mean, this is turning into, and food shortage supplies. There's like 3 days of food for big cities. Like this is rapidly turning into our Orwellian nightmare, and right before our eyes. And we're all, sitting at home on our computers watching it. And I'm just wondering about, your read of the people.
I can only look at historical data again, and what history tells me, this is only going one way. Now we're at, you're risking my life by not wearing a mask. And we have these people saying, well, I'm not wearing a mask because I don't feel the need to. If I'm not sick, I'm not going to do it. And we already had someone shot and killed for trying to force someone to wear a mask in the store. So we've also seen a baby torn from his mother's arms because she was on the corner protesting, and she wasn't wearing a mask. So the way I see this going is not going to be good. We're going to end up in a civil war. We're already being pit against each other. We have people protesting armed, while we have other people saying they're calling them racist, and just because they're armed, oh, there's white men with arms. But I mean, one thing has nothing to do with the other, and we have people feeding into this race baiting thing. It's really weird, because this comparison is strange. Nobody can even explain it, but people keep repeating it over and over again. And there's this meme going around with these white men holding these weapons, standing on the stairs of the Capitol, and a black guy getting shot. But one thing has nothing to do with the other. And what I would like to see is these people getting together with their arms and demanding that these tyrants stop shooting people for no reason and stop trying to enforce these unjust laws. You can't tell people to shelter in their homes. That's unconstitutional. You can't tell me what to do with my person. I don't care if you think it's going to make you safe. And I know, being a Black woman who is not religious and I'm not a statist, that puts me in a very unique position. Most people like me worship both God and the state. And I choose my morality as my religion. So I don't think anybody should be forced to do anything that's going to make me feel better or safer. I see this going down a very dark path, because I've seen people say, I can't wait until martial law. These people need to be forced to stay home to make me feel safe. And these police officers will be all too happy to oblige.
Did you see that video of the police officer who was talking to his fellow police officers, and he was speaking about how, we can't go against the Constitution, and he's standing up for the people, and then he's fired? You saw that video?
Yeah, I did. And he ended up getting in like close to over $1 million in GoFundMe.
Really?
Oh yeah. He did the right thing. One thing did kind of concern me in his video, when he stated, you guys, you're going to wake a sleeping giant. We don't want these people to, it kind of like, why don't we want people to awaken? He wanted us to stay asleep so they could stay in power. And, I kind of got what he was saying. He was afraid of the people rising up, but I do think it's time. It's time for us to stop laying down and taking this, because it's only going to get worse. The more we get used to accepting this subject position, the more the tighter these chains are going to get. The smaller our cages are going to get. And we have to start standing up for our rights. We have to. And even though I don't think protesting is really effective, I don't think begging the rulers to give us more freedom is the method that I would choose, but I do appreciate the fact that people are willing to go out there and do that, because it is drawing attention and they are spreading a message. And, you know, these signs that they're holding up, they represent, you know, they're saying that they want freedom. I just don't think that begging the slave master to let you go free is the thing to do. I just don't think that's going to happen. I believe that the only way to get your freedom is to take it, to stop. We are in a position where we just don't have to, you can just stop supporting it. Stop giving them your money. Stop paying your taxes. What are they going to do if everybody stopped paying taxes? Nothing. And the state can only rule by taking your money and paying the people to enforce their laws. Without that, they have nothing.
What kind of I guess support have you gotten online in terms of like what you're sharing? Do you find it's growing, or do you find it diminishes? How are people responding to what you post?
I definitely see that it has grown. I used to get so much backlash, and now I kind of feel like I don't even have to post that much anymore. It's almost like I'm sitting back and I'm watching this army grow, and it's awesome. I used to think that my voice was, I used to think I wasn't doing anything. I used to get so down, but I started getting messages, people thanking me and telling me how I've changed their position and how I've, you know, just changed their outlook and shown them a different perspective. And even though some have taken a long time to come around, because I've been talking about this for a very long time, for years. And I've even, you know, I even almost went back. I got on the Bernie train for a while because I wanted to believe something could change. And it didn't take me long. The DNC convention, I was done again. I felt like I was fooled once again, and that was it for me. I knew that I knew I had just, the wool was pulled over my eyes, and I used that. You know, I was like, look, even I got fooled again. So I'm taking that experience and I'm putting it out there. And even though I was embarrassed when Bernie got up there and held Hillary's hand and backed the person that he said was basically said she's the corporate whore, but then he's supporting her. I felt like an idiot. But, you know, I took that for the team, and I'm like, look, we have to face this, see it for what it is, and stop pretending. And, you know, I think people saw it too. And that was that. I felt like that Dem exit thing, that was awesome. Now, what I didn't like, that people started Dem exiting and going over to the Republican side. I'm like, what are you guys doing? That's not what I meant. But now I think they're starting to come around again, because Donald Trump, a lot of people wanted to believe that he was going against the state. And he talks such a good game. I listened to him for a little while, and I'm like, I was just waiting for him to start going back on everything he said, and that happened. So I'm starting to see people come back around again, and it's great.
What do you see as like a solution in terms of education? Because like what I found with you is I went from 1,400 people, brought it down to 100. I just wanted to get rid of everyone who wasn't participating, in a sense, everyone I didn't know. I wanted to go back into a sort of solid nucleus, and you were one of the few that I kept that I don't know, but because of your postings, I find that you're one of the few people that I pay attention to, because I'm doing my own postings and doing my own sort of Captain Sweepisms. I'm just wondering, because you're in the world of digital marketing,
Yes.
and I'm just wondering about educational campaigns and how to work as allies and how to create larger networks of people who share the same mindset. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I have a teenage son, and I don't send him to public school. I actually believe in self directed education. I encourage him to um, follow his own goals. He's into animation. He wants to create video games. So I just provide him with the tools to create animated characters and backgrounds. Hopefully he'll be able to join one of these teams in Unity when he becomes old enough, so he can start building these things. But I think people should feed their passions. It's not up to anyone to tell anyone what they should be contributing to the world.
Mm.
Everyone has something unique to offer.
Mm.
And I think public education suppresses that, and it gives you this cookie cutter thing, and it allows these bureaucrats who are really just strangers that put some stuff on paper and pushes out these curriculums that they're paid to push out, and it doesn't do anybody any good. You look at all these people are not qualified to really do anything. So I just didn't want to do that to my son. I just, and he's a lot smarter than a lot of adults that I know. So I really think people should steer their own education. Whatever it is you're passionate about, pursue that with your entire being. Put everything you have into that, and you'll find your way. I truly believe that. Someone told me a long time ago, do what you love and it'll take care of you for the rest of your life. I took that advice, and I work from home. I'm able to stay here and take care of my son, and I've been doing it for over 20 years. During this epidemic, I'm still working. I mean, I do it when I feel like it. I'm not on anybody's clock. I wake up when I feel like waking up. Sometimes I'm working really late, but I do it because I love it. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't want to be doing anything else. That is really the best advice I can give anybody on education. Just self-educate. Because when you're relying on curriculum, you're only relying on what somebody else is giving you, what they're doing to you. When you're seeking out information, you become more hungry for it. I love learning. I'm only to stay in business because I'm constantly learning all the time. And I just love it. I love it. I love feeding my brain.
Have you ever heard of the Mayan calendar?
The Mayan calendar? Yes, I have.
Have you studied it at all?
A little bit years ago. There was something about it that made me, I'm not going to say it seemed like it was debunked. It seemed like it came abruptly to an end at a time, and we surpassed that time. So I kind of just dismissed it.
Have you heard of Carl Kalman?
No.
He's written this book called The 9 Ways of Creation. And I just interviewed him earlier today. And I interviewed him about 3 years ago. And the Mayan temples have 9 levels. And then the 9 levels represent 9 ways of creation. And they map out the evolution of consciousness. And each wave is like it starts here billions of years and like hundreds of millions of years and millions of years. And the 6th wave was the wave of civilization. And then the 7th wave was the industrial kind of revolution. The 8th wave was like digitization. And we're now moving into the 9th wave, which is unity consciousness. And what he says is like, these are quantum waves that are sort of going through the galaxy that affect how our mind is structured and affects how we think and what we do as human beings. So he's saying there's this underlying pattern in the universe that the Mayans mapped out, put into their temples, and left it as knowledge for us, which he has decoded and wrote in this book, the Nine Ways of Creation. And why that's important now is 2012 was that end of the pyramid. It was like coming to the end. And in 2011 was the ninth wave, and that was the beginning of unity consciousness. And he's saying like the sixth and seventh waves are in duality and oppression, and everything that we see in statism and as a government is a result of these two waves. And that what's happening now is this consciousness is now accessible for us, whether it's Christ consciousness or whether it's unity consciousness, but it's based upon love, based upon connection, based upon humans helping one another. And so what I see is there's these two paradigms. The old paradigm of thinking is based upon these sixth and seventh waves. It's based upon fear, based upon control, based upon everything you've been speaking about. But the new paradigm, which actually it's like almost like a scientific fact, it's not a maybe, it actually is occurring, is happening. And the children that are, let's say, born after 2011 are very different. They're very, they talk about these psychic kids. They talk about kids that can kind of, read with their eyes closed. They have psychic abilities all across the planet. All of the movies about mutations are talking about these types of kids. And so as these waves are happening underneath, the higher waves are occurring, so that as you go through time, there's sort of ups and downs that change the nature of what kind of events are going to occur. And what he said is there's this wave going down right now that's going to peak at a low next September. So he says, and he's written a paper on the COVID crisis, what's happening, and the Mayan calendar. I can send that to you. He just sent that to me. But what it is, it's like I deal with maps. I'm very into mind mapping, and I've been mapping the new paradigm business structure, which I call a shared knowledge community. And it's looking at what you just said, like the organization of business should be based upon a person's gifts and their passions. And that's the main thing, rather than some commodity or product where, some fat cat at the top is getting all the dough. We should spread it out, be more of a network, and have that network be supportive of the artist, be supportive of the originator, and not try to juice them like they always do, in the old paradigm structures. So to me, we need to self-organize into a new business structure, because those old structures are dying and they're not good for the people. And so, one of the ideas I've had is like a media game called Planetary Guardians, where people start to come together on teams, a team of 4, and you start working as a team, and then you get 5 teams of 4. That creates a superhero team of 20. Like, imagine 20 high-end creative people actually working together, cooperating, helping each other, and then having 7 of those teams. That's 140 people, and a founding team of 4. It creates a shared knowledge community of 144 people. And that's like a cell in the new paradigm. In the cell in the old paradigm is the corporation. And have you ever seen the movie The Corporation, the documentary?
Oh, I think I have. I watched so many movies like that, though. Like, you know what? Let's just assume I didn't.
Okay, it's a Canadian documentary, and basically what they did is they analyzed the corporation as an entity and showed that it has the exact same attributes as a psychotic individual. And it's a brilliantly done documentary, but what it's essentially doing is it's pointing to the fact that that corporation, has no accountability and is responsible for what's occurring right now. And so we need a new cell. We need a new methodology for humans to come together that isn't linked into that old paradigm of thinking. And so, what I'm looking for are like new paradigm thinkers who want to do a more of a love-based business, who want to create a new system. Like what I see in you is you have left, like you're like Neo, you have left the matrix. You know, you are no longer participating. You participate, but you're not participating in mind in that whole shenanigans. And because of that, like the agents in the matrix, you get attacked because you're an example of this positive thought virus. And so there's a lot of people like you all across the planet, but we're isolated and we're more alone. And you know, to most people, we're insane. But when you start talking to someone who's of the same mindset, you're on exactly the same page.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
So
it's funny you say isolated is the perfect way to describe me. I've actually moved so far out in the country now, and I very rarely leave my house. Even before this, I mean, this lockdown has not changed my life at all. I wasn't leaving my house before, except to go get groceries. And now it's like really all it's done is force me to shop even more locally, because if I go into town, I see people wearing masks, and they don't do that here where I live. Nobody's wearing masks around here. So I'd rather stay around people, you know, that aren't doing that, and, you know, that are okay with walking amongst their neighbors and, you know, talking to each other. And so I just kind of stay right here in my own neighborhood now. I don't even venture out. I mean, I probably put 10 miles on my car since this whole thing started. So I would definitely be interested in connecting with people again, because I don't even want to get used to this. I don't want to get so isolated that I'm so comfortable with being disconnected from people, because I am getting there.
Well, I mean, if this is anything, I would just like to say, and I was saying this to Carl, like I see you as a hero. I see you as somebody who has the courage to spread the truth, and there's like that cock getting fired. I mean, anyone who's out there who's standing up to this, they're the ones who are the first ones hit, right? Like they go after the leaders, they go after the people who have the courage and strength to stand up and say something. And I think looking like Julian Assange, you know, who again is, you know, to me another hero where we need to be rallying behind. We need to be supporting people like that, because they're doing something that no one else can do. You know, you're doing something which no one else can do. And there's a lot of people, let's say, watching from the background who, let's say, support you and love you and like you, but they're not willing to stand by your side because they're afraid. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear. And I see in you that you've left that behind, right? You at some point, Neo leaves the matrix and realizes that he's the one. And I think like you're the one, and different people who are the one know that they stand in truth. And once you stand in truth, there's nothing to fear.
Right.
And I just wonder sometimes about, you know, your emotional state, as you said, you know, feeling isolated. And for anyone watching out there, that, you know, I think there's far more of us than we know.
Yeah.
And we need to self-organize.
I like to think so. And it would be nice if we could organize. I think that is key. I watched, and not saying, you know, not suggesting violence, but I watched The Patriot again the other day. And the only way the Redcoats were defeated was because they, you know, the people organized. They got together and they came up with a plan, and they came out on top. There's literally no other way. Nothing is going to be, yeah, of course I can come out as an individual, but how does that help future generations? It doesn't. It's, you know, and eventually, you know, somebody's going to knock on my door, like these contact tracers, you know? So we do have to organize. We have to stand up.
Let me ask you about, I don't know if you've seen any of my posts about Planetary Guardians, but what do you think of that name, Planetary Guardians?
When I first saw it, I kind of felt, I really don't like I don't like the authoritarian concept. I don't like, I like feeling equal. And I like everybody feeling equal. I don't want to feel like someone is above me, and I don't want to feel like I'm above anyone.
Hmm.
And Guardian does give me that sense, like somebody's trying to be over me. And I'm a rebel at heart. And it just kind of, it's a repellent a little bit. It repels me.
Okay. Well, it's good to know. I mean, to me, like Planetary Guardians are, it's kind of like we need something to identify that isn't national and that isn't a religion, but some sort of organizing force that to me uses media. Because what I see happening is the whole, let's say, war or battleground is for the minds of the people
Yeah.
to convince them of things. And the reason they're winning, in a sense, is because, you know, they've convinced people of lies. And so what
Right.
I see you as is like a lighthouse. And what you're doing is you're sending these messages out there, and you're sending these messages out, and it's conflicting to the normal narrative. Now, to some who already agreed, they go, yeah, way to go. I agree to you. But to the next level, you're you're sort of irritating them because you're presenting something that goes against their normal thinking. And in terms of cognitive dissonance, right, humans, if you're saying information that goes against what they believe, they generally just dismiss you, right? They just say, okay, I'm not even going to
Right.
look. But I had a teacher a while back, and he was bringing this information to me, and I was like that. I mean, some of the information is so horrendous that you don't want to believe it. You just don't want to look at it. But if you finally break through and then you start to look at it and examine, like with a logical mind, you know, the evidence is there. It's all there. And
Right.
it's a big step to get to the point where, like you actually question the authority of the government or whoever that is trying to put these types of draconian methods on us. And so, I mean, again, like I see you as this, as a person who, you know, has the truth, and you're sending it out there, and you're sending it out without fear, and you have no idea, you know, how many people you're influencing. But
Mm-hmm.
again, like if you're on a team and then those teams are teamed up and you start to get tools and you all are helping each other with the info tech. It's like, you probably know that you're probably a lot more advanced on the computer than a lot of people. But if all of a sudden you teach them and all of a sudden they start doing what you're doing and they start passing on what you have, you know, we become our own media and we start to influence the people around us. And now there's an alternative large organization internationally that is presenting the truth, that is presenting, you know, an alternative.
I love that. Instead of just one guy, like, you got Wham and you've got High Impact Flicks, you've got all these guys that are doing their own thing, which is great. And they've all got large audiences. Um, and they've got different, opinions. But yeah, if we're all on the same, page, and instead of putting out opinion pieces, sticking to facts, I think is very important.
Hmm.
I've learned to separate my feelings and try to keep my opinions to myself. Um, because I've gotten caught up in my opinions and, have gotten checked on them too. So I try to just keep those things to myself and just whatever the facts are, stick to that. Um, but yeah, if there's anything that you feel like you need me to do, and within the area of my expertise, just let me know.
Well, I like, there's two things that I've been personally developing, let's say, as an inventor, and one is called the inflow matrix operating system. And it's a universal business structure to organize any job, any organization, and any community. It's a set of maps that have universal concepts that you can use to basically organize anything. That's the
Mm.
underlying operating system. And at first it's like a mental operating system. It's like looking at, we need to connect how we think with how we organize on the net, with how we run our businesses, and to have that as a shared reference point, because there's so many different worldviews on the planet right now. There's so many different belief systems, right? Like, humanity was isolated in pockets and over thousands of years. Now we come out, and now, everyone was sort of at war. The worldviews were fighting, but now here we are, like, we're 21st century humans, and most people, to me, don't want war. They don't want to ruin countries. They don't want to participate in that type of stuff. But we've had this war propaganda, since we were growing up, about that glorifies war and says it's the way we're supposed to be. And what Carl Kalaman was saying about these waves of consciousness is this unity wave is an actual, is leaving those sixth and seventh waves of civilization and industrialism. And so there is this hope, because I think, humans have this belief that we have to have conflict. We have to be in war. It's part of our nature. But it was part of our nature as a result of this kind of like quantum fields that we're in. And it's kind of like, as we enter into these new spaces, our whole consciousness changes. I think we have this belief that there's like a prophet comes along like Buddha or Jesus, and they're presenting some new idea, and the new idea, either registers or it doesn't. But in this worldview, it's that the actual kind of quantum field that we are encased within is what we connect into. It's like, I don't know if you know about mushrooms, but there's this mycelium in the forest, right? And the mycelium is like the connective tissue amongst the whole forest. And then isolated mushrooms pop up, but the mycelium is what connects everything in the forest together. And it's kind of like, we're like that. There's a field of consciousness around the whole planet, and that we tap into it. It's like our big internet. And that when you change that field in relationship to larger galactic timing structures that the Mayans actually mapped out and were, way advanced in terms of the mathematics that they were dealing with, then the minds of the people connect into this. And so what they're doing right now with this COVID pandemic, to me, is they're hiding the fact that they're implementing this 5G rollout network. And so if you look at the whole planet covered in these satellites, and then you look at these transmitters every 400 feet, the downside is they have no research into, the health effects, absolutely none. And if you look at sort of pandemics in the past, like this, what happened with the influenza after World War I, it was because radio signals were coming in. And
Absolutely.
World War II, another one happened, and radar was
coming. You can't say that, because you are a conspiracy theorist.
This is why they took down.
Adds up. It adds up.
Well, they took down David Icke for saying this, right? I mean, his main thing was he was starting to bring the connection between the 5G and the pandemic, and 7 million people heard it, and then boom, he's off, right? Wow. He got taken out. And I think the main thing that they don't want to see is they don't want humans to question this 5G rollout, because it's coming out in 2020, right across. And what about Wuhan? Wuhan was the first city in China to get 5G. First city in China. Isn't that, there's a correlation between these 5G rollouts and this pandemic, because what happens is the frequency that they're doing is affecting the body, and that whatever's in the body is getting this unnatural frequency, and that is inducing the sickness. And people aren't sort of putting that together. And so you create, like look what happened last year, like the Hong Kong, millions on the streets, France, hundreds of thousands of people in the street. In Canada, they were blockading across the whole country, right? These are the people are uprising, they're sick of it. And then boom, got this pandemic, boom, there is nothing better to shut people down than public safety, right? Who can say no to that?
But that's backfired, because now they're out there again in droves, and now there are more of them. So they're going to have to do something else. They're planning, there was Event 201 planning for COVID-19. Well, they've got another one coming up. So we can expect something else.
For sure. I mean, this is just the beginning. This,
Yeah.
this is just the, we're testing you out. We're going to see how far you can go. But I mean, I
They're
think,
talking about some kind of another respiratory infection, and this one's going to kill. They're saying this one's going to kill millions of people. And if they are staging something like this, you can guarantee it's going to happen. So it's almost like I'm to a point where I really just feel like I just want to just live my life and do whatever good I can while I'm here, because I feel like they're going to try to take out as many of us as they can, and whoever's left, they're going to have us submit, and this is going to be like Soylent Green,
Well, if you look at the media, and I don't know if you're tracking, a lot of the shows on Netflix and the movies, there's so many futuristic shows. And what do they all have in common? There's always this brutal government that is in complete control, and there's like an isolated hero, and they may win, but they never question the fact that there's this psycho government. Like it's in all, like
it's normal.
Have you seen the show Colony?
Yes. Oh, yes. Like, it's just normal.
What did you think about that?
Isn't there shouldn't there be another season?
Well, he was just going, they stopped it just as he's going in that, I don't know about you, but that show is happening now in terms of the colonization, like putting walls around cities, stopping movement, having fear, having humans control other humans.
Yeah.
They futurize our minds to get ready for what they're trying to do. Right?
Predictive programming.
Yeah.
Yeah. They've been doing that for a long time. I really feel like this is something, I used to call people that would talk about Agenda 21 conspiracy theorists. It wasn't until about 2 years ago that I realized these people were probably onto something. Yeah, seriously.
So I'm wondering about something, because like I've had this idea called, the Very Secret Plan. So I'm loading this up into the YouTube, the Very Secret Plan. And to me, it's a web TV starter show. And it's like, I don't know if you want your own show, but to me, this is how we do it. We have to gain numbers, we have to gain notoriety, and it's either you hide in your house or all of a sudden you become very well known. And someone like David Icke, who's been doing this for years, I mean, he's still alive, and he's been putting forth this information for a long, long time. And I'm just wondering about you in terms of your own desire either to remain, I mean, to me, this is your first interview, right?
Right.
So, to me, it was
what they call a keyboard warrior.
Right, but it was a big step. It's kind of like, to me, like I'm looking for all of the new paradigm leaders. I'm looking for all of the people who already have the mindset, understand what's going on, but again, are isolated and are looking, for support. They're looking for help. They're looking for, who are the other people who actually see what's going on. And I'm certainly a very nonviolent person. And I think that before you get to violence, it's like, we have the numbers. There's billions of us and there's hundreds of thousands of them. And for the first time in our lives, we get to make media. Like when we were growing up, right? You couldn't do this. You need a studio, you need hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then you need the permission of the studio owners to even do anything. And right now, everyone on the planet can be their own media.
Right.
So,
absolutely.
So we've gone from something that's impossible to something that's possible. And so I think there's this window that's open right now, because they are actually extremely scared of people like us, because we're the ones that can actually sort of pop the balloon. We're the ones who are not buying the narrative. We know exactly what's going on. And it's almost like they're on stage and they've got this whole crowd in front of them and everyone's listening, but we're in the back and we start talking and more people are turning around and listening to us.
Yeah.
And I remember I don't know if you were involved in Occupy at all, but
No.
I was involved in Occupy in Vancouver, and we were in this church, and there was like the mayor was giving a speech. And then I saw something happen I've never seen. There was like maybe 700 people in the church, but there was like 400 people from Occupy had come marched down, and we were in there. And in Occupy, when you wanted to talk to the crowd, you would say, you kind of get their attention, and then you'd say something, and then everyone would repeat it. So you say, I want to say something, and then everyone go, I want to say something, so everyone could hear it.
Okay.
So right in the middle of the mayor speaking, person stands up, boom, starts speaking, completely takes over the meeting, says this great speech, then another person does it, and then another person does it, and for the first time in my life, I saw how to break their control, because they always control the conversation, right? They choose who goes up front, the mayor and maybe a couple people, and they're the only ones who get to give their part of the narrative. And there's no chance of coming up with, why are you the mayor? Or why is this whole system? What, questioning the authority. And so Occupy to me was the first time that happened. And I don't know if you know much about Occupy, but in Vancouver, they fed thousands of people for free for like a month. And people from all around were giving food. And it was the biggest thing that if you were standing there, you got free food. You didn't have to pay. And the people organized it, and they organized it easily. And it was like going, wow, we got all these homeless people. We got all these people that are hungry.
Wow.
And we have all these resources, but why did that happen then? It was because the people were doing it, not the government, not the corporation. So I just think that because of this ninth wave, there is this future hope. And what Carl's saying is we're going into a dip. So by September next year, it's going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. Who knows what will happen, but then we're going to come out of that. And when we come out of that, it's going to enter into sort of, I don't know if it's 1,000 years of golden light, which sometimes they say, but
Yeah.
I know that we have a very hopeful future, but it's kind of like the storm is coming. There's a big storm coming, and it's going to be the wake-up call, because everyone's going to see how bad it can get, and no one wants that, right?
Right.
Like deep down, everyone just wants to live, have a family, have love. We're very simple. Nobody wants revolution unless every right is being taken away from us.
Yeah. I guess I am fearful as to what they'll do because of the resources that they have, at their disposal. I honestly feel like the true divide on COVID-19 is whether nature or the government is doing this to us. And most of us that have been paying attention know that they knew that this was going to happen. That I do know. Did they do it on purpose, inadvertently? I don't know. Are they capable? Absolutely. I mean, look at what the syphilis, you got Mockingbird, I can go on and on and on. People ask me, why don't you trust government? Because I've been around for a while. I'm over half a century old. I've seen some things. And I'm afraid I'm going to see more. And it's getting desperate. These people have gained so much control that they've got to be in fear of losing it. They have become so big and have pillaged this world of so much. I can imagine them not being afraid of losing it. So what would be their next move? What are they going to release on us next?
Yeah, I would guess that this is just a trial run, and then something else will come in, and then they'll do it even stronger. This is just to get people ready for it. because
Mm.
I think like what happened, like what was happening in Hong Kong, right? I mean, millions of people were on the street and we're not leaving, and
Yeah.
now nobody's on the street. So they know it's kind of like as they're squeezing tighter and tighter.
Sorry about
Well,
that.
well, I think we're probably coming to the end, and I'm very glad to meet you finally.
You too. You too.
And
And yeah, if you want, we can build some kind of platform. And I was building something a long time ago where I was going to have people come and do debates on certain issues. Never really amounted to anything. It's
well,
called Breaking Silences.
like right now, I'm building a software program that is going to sort of revolutionize chat rooms, the ability to create missions, to change conversation types. I've created card sets. I've got game boards, maps. I spent 25 years, pretty much 10 hours a day, working on one plan,
Hmm.
one idea.
Wow. I
So
really appreciate you having me on. This was a pleasure. It was very nice meeting you.
I look forward to getting to know you and your family more. Say hi to your husband and your son, and they'll get to watch this and see what they think.
Okay. Sounds good. Same here.
Okay, bye, Keisha.
Okay. Bye.
See you, everybody.